for the greatest show in fantasy football history, hosted by the incomparable Scott Connor and the one and only Ray GQ. I present to you Destination Chill, where football and fantasy collide.
Woo, let's get it. What's cracking, everybody? GEGP. It is Sunday, final day of March, our year 2024. Y'all decided to tap in with me and my boy, my co-host, my brother from another mother. Y'all know who it is, man. My man, Scott Connor. You can find him at Charles Chill FFB, and you can get at me at Ray GQ on X. I'm excited tonight, Scott. It feels like we haven't done this in a while. We eliminated the Wednesday night Destination Chill streams for the off season. It feels like we haven't done this in a while. So I'm excited to be here, talk some fantasy football with you. And got a lot of people in the building. I see Tyson, Adam, Ty DeClaire. What's up, Cold World? He was hanging out with us last night. Gator, JTP, Sam. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. What's happening with you, Scott?
Good evening to all the good people. It's funny you say that feels like we haven't done this for a while, because it's true. We haven't been here for a week, although we spent over 3 hours last night delivering the new rendition of... We'll see what it ends up being called, but anybody that remembers our initial launch of War Games, the patrons over at destinationdevy.com, patreon.com/allgas got to tune in last night on a private YouTube stream while we worked through the first rendition of that. So we planned a couple hours, and it was damn near 2 o'clock in the morning my time before I finally wound down and was like, I can quit thinking about Dynasty for the night. But we are back. This is going to be a fun one. We did a 1 QB mock draft last week. We only went 3 rounds. And I'll just tell you this, Ray. I probably got 4 or 5 DMs this week from people just saying, thank you. Thank you for the 1 QB content. And you know what? I was just like, you know what? Cool. You're welcome. Because we don't see a lot of it out there.
Right.
Both you and I, if we create content, we don't even mention 1 QB really. We're just immediately going, everyone's playing Superflex. But I appreciate everybody that reached out and just said, thank you for the 1 QB content. So I'm looking forward to this one tonight, because we are doing literally the exact opposite, if anybody saw the thumbnail.
Yeah, and before we get started, Scott, kind of want to talk about something that is in the news right now. Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice apparently involved in, I don't know if it's being titled a hit and run, but a collision right out here. Literally, my wife and I were on that same road on Friday night going to Dallas for a date night, but 4-car accident, left the scene. I don't have all the details about the situation, but I've seen a lot of people asking and talking about this on Twitter and inside the Discord, what to do with Rashee Rice. You know, what do you do to get ahead of this situation? What are your initial thoughts right now? And I know it's still early in the process, but what are your initial thoughts about Rashee Rice? What's going to happen to him with the NFL? And how are you treating any Rashee Rice that you have in Dynasty right now?
Yeah, I knew we were going to cover this topic because it's been a heavy debate in our Discord today. I haven't been able to tap in a ton just because of Easter, visiting family and stuff, but I've followed it. You know, we're going to do our phones, constantly looking on Twitter, trying to see what's up, if there's anything that comes in. I mean, let's be honest. We saw the dash cam footage. Anybody that hasn't seen it, literally go on Twitter. Within 2 minutes, you'll see somebody posting it. Literally hundreds of accounts have put it out there. But, I mean, he got in an accident. I still don't even think it's been confirmed that he was driving, but everyone just says it was his vehicle and suspected that he was driving. It was an accident, multi-car accident. Apparently, he was racing. You can see 2 vehicles coming up on the left. Looks like they're racing each other. And then they spin out, and it's like a 5 or 6 car accident. Sounds like there were some injuries involved, at least one injury involving somebody having to go to the hospital. But I'll just say this. Any discourse on, man, I should be selling Rashee Rice, or let's try to buy him low because somebody else might be trying to sell him, I think it's overblown. We love to react immediately on stuff that happens, but I don't think this is news other than it's something to keep in the back of your mind, right? This was a bad decision by him if it's true, and then the reports that there were guns in the car. And I mean, I think you and I probably just, and I won't speak for you, but I'm just sitting there going like, dude, why? You just had an awesome year. You know, you're 2 years away from being in the discussions of getting paid. You know what I mean?
Because
Why?
you know why, Scott? Because for you and I, it's easy for us who do not have who are not Rashee Rice level of athlete. Rashee Rice has been a star athlete from the time that he was a kid, right? He grew up and very successful collegiate player, went on to the NFL. Like, you are who you are, right? And money doesn't change you. It just makes you have easier access to become and be the thing that you already are. So, it's a stupid ass decision. You're not just putting yourself, if you want to do something that just puts yourself in danger, that's stupid as it is. But at least you're only impacting and affecting yourself. But to do stuff like that, to put other people at jeopardy, that's the real selfish nature of it. So it's not even the why is it's dumb, and you've got the means, and that's what he was going to do. And thankfully, it wasn't a more serious situation, or we wouldn't just be talking about it potentially being, my opinion, what's the NFL do, Scott? He misses a game, maybe two games. But is it going to be something where they kick him out of the NFL, his career's over, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to cut him? It's not. I don't believe that to be the case at all. Idiotic decision, selfish decision, and like you said, something to keep in the back of your mind. And there were things throughout the draft process that some people had uttered about Rashee Rice, and it's unfortunate that now those things are, starting to come up, or you hear rumblings about it. But ultimately, I think he misses a game or two. We're talking fantasy football. What would you or would you not be doing? I would not be selling Rashee Rice based off of this. Again, stupid decision, selfish decision, but ultimately, I don't think he's going to miss much time at all.
Yeah, just checked Keep Trade Cut, Ray. He is down 6 spots in the wide receiver rankings today. Down over 700 points from this morning until now. So that's just, it's interesting. Now, this is a topic that I'm sure everybody's probably thought about before. Do you think you can actually act on that wide receiver 21 to 27 fall, or that 700-point fall?
What do you mean by act? What do you mean by act? What do you mean? Well, I don't think it is over, because he's not even the type of receiver that people were all the way bought in on in the first place. People were already kind of, Hollywood is there. If they take Xavier Worthy, that knocks Rashee Rice down. So this is the catalyst to go ahead and get the avalanche started with Rashee Rice. This definitely, I think, could get a little bit worse for him, at least from a perceived value standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, and here's how it gets worse. I think it's just a lesson learned for all of us to see how quickly something like this could end up being something that kind of blows over. And not that it was a misunderstanding, but it wasn't as big of a deal as it was reported. When it got reported this morning, this is Henry Ruggs 2.0, and man, this is awful. He's going to get cut. Like the overreactions, right? But then you see this fall, you see this keep trade cut dive. And I think really what ends up happening is, even if he continues to fall, the way this could burn him is 2 ways. One, he already fell into a range of receivers where it was kind of like, pick your poison, pick your flavor of the week. There's just everybody that you want or might not want in that range of wide receiver 15 to 55. So he's already in a range of who you want, and you may not like some other players in that range. But I do wonder if there is something about this that is ongoing, or something about this that doesn't stick right with, I mean, if you remember Kareem Hunt's situation, it wasn't the behavior itself that got him cut. It was how he dealt with it, right? Mm-hmm. Lying to the Chiefs about what happened, not being truthful. We don't know if something like that could happen. And does it mean they're going to cut him? No, I would never bet on that. That's an outlier outcome. Does this mean, though, that maybe there's a 10% higher chance today that the Chiefs are going, we may want to draft another receiver for whatever reason it is? Maybe it's we don't trust this guy. There's stuff we don't know. Maybe this isn't a guy we're looking to extend as soon as we can. Maybe there's something that could come from this that we don't know about. But that could impact Rashee Rice without really anything actually happening to him. But you already said he was volatile. People are still a little skeptical about what are the Chiefs going to do in the draft. And if this allows them to sit there and go, you know what? We may draft the Lad McConkey in the second round or first round even. And now you're going, okay, he got competition where if he would have not done what he did, maybe there's not as high of odds that happens.
Right.
So I think it indirectly impacts him. But no, I don't think you can go buy him for any cheaper you could. If you really want to bet on his situation kind of blowing over, then I bet you can buy him today. You can get him. Someone will sell him. You're willing to give up a receiver you couldn't have got for him yesterday. You could probably make that deal today if you really want him. But I don't think there's a lot of strategy behind it.
Let me just ask you, just in a vacuum, screw the format, just think whatever. Would you rather have Ladd McConkey or Rashee Rice?
Ooh. It's closer than it would have been this morning because you got that ADV involved, right? Like you don't feel as good about having Rashee Rice right now versus some of the rookies as you might have yesterday. Fair or not. So I'd still lean Rashee because I know he's on the Chiefs. But man, you put him on the same team. Literally, you put him on the same team, and I couldn't really say. I'd probably still go Rice, but it's a very interesting question for sure.
Is it a sell Hollywood Brown opportunity right now?
I mean, I got 2 offers for him today. I don't think it was a coincidence that someone actually offered for him today.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I don't think this is a reason to sell him if you already weren't trying to sell him.
What were you
If
offered?
you're trying to sell him, it probably
what was
means
the offer? What was the offer?
I was offered in our Destination 5 lineup league.
Mm-hmm.
I was offered the 201.
You were offered the 201 for Hollywood.
Now, that's the same manager. I just traded DeAndre Hopkins for the 207 and a third. And here was my response. I still got to try to win a little bit. I've slimmed my receivers down in that league to where my construction is basically right on the edge of where I want it to be. So I said, you know what? I got to keep a couple of these guys. But it's funny because if I could trade Hollywood Brown.
I'm shocked you didn't do that. I'm shocked you didn't do that. I'm actually shocked you didn't do it.
Had I been able to sell that yesterday, I would have kept DeAndre Hopkins for the 207.
I get it. I get you. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, I think it's straightforward. If you were selling Hollywood Brown before, use this as the advantage that kind of kicks it over the edge to be able to get rid of him.
All right, Scott. Any other pressing NFL news items that have happened over the past couple of days that you think we need to talk about? I know Michael Penix had his pro day, apparently ran fast, so now he's moving up the board. There's still a lot of drama out of Dallas with Dak Prescott, but is there anything else big that has happened that you think is worth bringing up?
What do you think about the kickoff rule? You think it's going to change the, maybe not fantasy scoring for kickoff return points, which certainly is a factor if your league has that. But we were talking about it the other day. Do we think this maybe changes can affect a lot of different things? The number of offensive plays that are run. There's going to be a little time that runs off on kickoffs. But does it also help the offenses in terms of more efficient fielded position for offenses? Quicker strike scoring because field position is going to go up, 5 to 10 yards closer to the end zone for the offenses. I mean, I think it has a cascading effect for fantasy that maybe we're not prepared for, but I don't think it changes like my team versus your team. I think it just makes it so that scoring is probably going to be a little bit higher, which was the intent of the rule.
That's the name of the game. It's to increase scoring. I absolutely think the new kickoff rule, not just from what the kicker's responsibility is, but some of the things that the return team can actually deploy from a return set standpoint. You are going to want to have people back there who can actually block, make quick cuts, get it. Like you will be able to run plays out of that sort of kickoff formation. And hell, if the ball rolls in the end zone, you get the ball at the 30. You know what I'm saying? You try to corner kick that joint, it goes out of bounds. The offense is getting the ball at the 40. So all of this is designed to score more points. I think to a degree it may take more time off the clock because you're now getting those returns happening in game, but you're probably getting some more efficient, some better and more advantageous field position as well. So I think in a nutshell, I think this is going to impact and increase scoring. It is going to have the direct outcome that the NFL is looking for, and I'm excited for it, man.
Does it, from a best ball perspective, let's assume we do not have like kick return yards and stuff like that. I mean, I will say I'm in a couple leagues where you do get kick return yards. I think that's a big change for your fantasy league,
Some
right?
leagues have those. Yeah,
But
some
let's just say,
yeah.
right? If you have that, I think that becomes something you need to go in and look at. Who are the kick returners? What teams are they on, et cetera? Because there's going to be teams that emerge as way better at setting up these returns than others. There's going to be some that are figuring it out and then others that aren't. But just in a general best ball stance where there is no kick return, but just touchdowns, right? How interested are you in trying to buy some of these specialists, especially if they're listed at like Cordero Patterson, like at running back, where those are even harder to find than wide receivers? Like, is that a player where you would actually go and try to buy in lieu of like a dart throw receiver or something like that? Are you interested in making that kind of move? Because there's only a few players, but I think it's interesting.
It's really interesting, and not just from the receiver standpoint, but you preach any running back on a 53, there are going to be running backs who maybe, let's just imagine like Boston Scott, right? Doesn't really get a ton of offensive impact. He's scattered in from time to time when he was utilized in Philadelphia, but you got him on the return team. You've got like Chase Brown was another guy for Cincinnati that would return kicks and play out of the backfield. So I think it's going to be interesting to see which rookies get pegged into these roles, which offensive players get pegged in this role, but it definitely could yield some just cheap touchdowns. You get one of those backup running backs, backup wide receivers that adds, they scored 2 touchdowns on the year from this new kick return rule. That in conjunction with the 4 that they give you offensively, that's a player that throughout a 17-week season, especially in best ball, they probably are cracking your lineup 2 times a season and they cost you nothing. So again, the evolution of the game is changing, and all this is going to do is give some young special teams creative mind some freedom and liberties to do some things that you couldn't previously do based on the kickoff rules. So long story short, I'm excited to see this rule. This is one of the few rules that I think at least I'm really excited about, because I do believe we'll see some creative returns and some increased scoring and better field position for offense.
Well, speaking of that, we have a hell of a mock draft tonight. And Ray, I forgot to include kick return yardage, but I should have added it into this hodgepodge of league settings and scoring. I'll ask the chat this while Ray's setting up the mock, because we are going to do a crazy mock and we're going to have to get through it in 40 minutes, Ray.
Yes. Yep.
But I want to hear the names of some of these players. If this was a kick return league, like what rookies should we be on? I haven't really researched what rookies were involved in kick returns at any point in their college careers. So I would be interested in kind of diving into that, because I do have some leagues where we have kick return yardage. But let's get into the mock. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, pulling it up right now. How many rounds are we going in this thing, Scott? How many rounds do you want to do?
We planned on doing 4, so we're gonna have to hit it hard when we get to the later picks. But
right, let me
we go 4.
Yeah, we can go 4. Let me take a couple of these joints off. I got this joint going like 8 rounds. Here we go. Let's go 4 rounds. Let's pull it up. Let's pull the board up and remind the people of the settings that we're using. Scott, what are the settings that we're using today?
Yeah, for this one, we're going the opposite of we did last week. We did 1 QB with a 1.75 premium. So we're juicing the premium up to 2 PPR. So anyone in 2 PPR, you're going to see, we're going to be forced to talk a little tight ends tonight, or maybe we aren't. We can definitely discuss how the position will be perceived in this format. We are also doing 2 quarterbacks. So you have to start 2 quarterbacks in this league, not super flex, but start 2 QB. So it's a 12-team, 2 QB, 2 PPR for tight ends, and then we are adding in the 0.25 point per carry for running backs. So if you think this class is weak at running back and weak at tight end, we are juicing the scoring at both of those positions to make it to where we're going to have to take it very seriously for this mock. So 2 QB, 2 PPR for tight ends, and 0.25 point per carry. 12 teams, super flex, start 11. Best ball. So let's go. I'll let you start it, right? Because I always start. I will give you the first pick because I am very curious where you're going to go in this format.
It's tough, man. 2 QB. So you got to start 2. It's not super flex. It's not optional. You got to start 2 quarterbacks, but then we're also getting 2 points per reception for the tight end. So for me, It's not going to change. I ran the war on this as well, and I know where elite quarterbacks can potentially get you in a format like this. I'm taking a shot on the elite guy. Now, Scott, I know you can make you very well can make a case for Brock Bowers here at the 101 spot. And maybe even more so because of how the distribution of quarterback scoring is on the back end. But for me, in this situation, it is truly, I don't understand why we're at this point now where it's, shit on Caleb Williams season. But for me, I mean, he is the tier 1 guy for me. It's Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison in this format, Brock Bowers, and Malik Neighbors. But I'm still taking Caleb 101, man.
Yeah, I think you have to go Caleb. And the thing that Ray didn't even mention, but he probably just assumes because that's all of what he plays, it's also best ball, Ray. So not only do you have to start 2, but the same concept applies of you probably don't want just 2 in best ball, right? Like you already want, even in Superflex, you want at least probably 3 QBs just because of the randomness of how they can fire. So you add that component of how many leagues in best ball are you thinking, man, I'd love to have 3 or 4 starters on a given week, right?
Hell
Sometimes
yeah.
5.
Yeah.
And now it's 2 QB. So you don't even have that option of, well, if it doesn't work, I have only 2 QBs this week. I can hit from another position. You can't here. You got to start the 2. So I'm going to follow it up. And as much as I think there's a tier break from 101 QB all the way to the others, I'm going to go QB 2. And I'm going to go Drake May at QB2.
Wow. Drake May as QB2 off of the board. Scott Connor. I like it. And really quickly, why May over Daniels? Just quickly.
Best ball, 2 QB. I think that, not that I'm drafting for floor over ceiling, but maybe it's just something about me thinking that Drake May I know is going to give me less volatility, less bus risk. Like I want to hit a double here. I don't want to strike out. It's the 102. I probably need QBs, so I just feel like if I'm going somewhat safe, but also a guy that has a ceiling in multiple capacities, I think I'm leaning Drake May as QB2.
I'm going to take the next 2 picks, and I'm going to follow your thought process. And
You're taking 2?
I'm taking 2.
You traded up ahead of me? All right.
The GM said it. I called the GM. He gave me 2 picks. No, I'm not going to do 2. I'm not going to do 2. Here we go. At the 103 spot, I am going to follow your lead. And in this type of format, man, I can definitely see a world in which, Drake May goes off the board as QB2. I'm not as concerned about Jaden Daniels personally. There's a world in which if I felt there was a break, Brock Bowers would be the selection here for me. But I'm not concerned about Jaden Daniels. The capital will be there. I do believe in the talent, the skill set, and the player. I'm going Jaden Daniels here at the 103 spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to pass up Jaden in a point per carry league. I think that boosts him, probably his ceiling much higher than Drake May. This is where it gets tough. I almost should just let you have the 104.
It's an easy pick. It's an easy pick. It's an easy pick. It's an easy pick.
It's an easy pick, except for I could sell you on there are some leagues where it wouldn't be an easy pick. But I think the name cachet and the perception and likability and everything that still goes along with the name Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm still taking him here.
Really?
I am taking him over Brock Bowers. I am taking him over McCarthy. Yes, only because if I think what I'm shooting for is
okay.
If I am shooting for, let's just say I wanted Drake May or somebody like Drake May. I think if I'm willing to put Marv on the block, I can accomplish the construction that I'm looking for. I'm just assuming that. Now, I will tell you, there are 2 QB leagues that I'm in that you cannot get a QB in the mold of one where you actually care about them for this type of price, which seems crazy. You can't even get to the table for one of the top 8, 10 QBs in Dynasty with Marv. So I'm banking that maybe there's a couple less sharp managers in my league that are willing to not understand the position and the scoring as much. But I think I still lead Marv here. And maybe that's because I know I'm picking at 6, even though this isn't a real league where I would also have the 6 pick. I just want to see what you do at 5 because it was a tough decision.
I do think as I'm sitting back now, and I just asked myself this question, in a start 2 QB league that's also 2.0 tight end premium, what position do I truly believe is probably the more scarce and the harder one to acquire? Finding a tight end that can get 2 points per reception, which is just, they may not be the elite guy, but can I find a tight end versus finding a quarterback that could end up in a very favorable situation? And if I were making this pick today, as much as I would want to take Brock Bowers, honestly, in a start 2 QB league and the projected draft capital of J.J. McCarthy, I'm taking J.J. here at the 1-5 spot, Scott. I've got to. This is start 2 quarterback. The capital is going to be there. Is it going to be with the Denver Broncos, the New York Giants, the Minnesota Vikings? I don't know. But I can find another tight end even in this class. I may not want that Ben Sinnott, but I can find a tight end that can catch the damn ball.
Yeah, I probably would lean McCarthy over Bowers. I do think Bowers would be my pick at 106, though, just because it's best ball, how I'm going to want to roster construct. I'm going to want to have here's what the Bowers pick does for me, Ray. Anytime you're in these best ball leagues and you can hit or you can get a high-end tight end, what it does for me is it gives me a little bit of relief at some of the other positions, right? I don't need to roster 5 dog shit darts at tight end to make up for the fact that I don't have a good one. If I have Bowers and I add him to a team that already has like an Evan Ingram, I actually feel really good about not having to carry 5 more tight ends just to hit the threshold that I'm trying to hit. Because I probably want to carry 4 or 5 at least in best ball. But if I have a guy like Bowers, it actually alleviates me to have to carry probably at least 1 or 2 other tight ends. So I think he's a clear pick in 2 PPR.
All right, let me add a little wrinkle to this exercise. Let's just, for the sake of the exercise tonight, for the sake of the exercise, Bo Nix is a first-round pick. And Bo Nix is a first-round pick to the Denver Broncos because that's where everybody is mocking him to. And let's just say, for the sake of this exercise, the Las Vegas Raiders trade up at the top of the second to draft Michael Penix. He's not a first-rounder. I'm not getting crazy here. But, Scott, you've seen him just like I've seen him. No matter how much you detest the guy or try to knock him, Bo Nix is damn near in every first-round mock I'm seeing. Now, will that come to pass? I don't know. But for the sake of tonight's exercise, he is a top 12 pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. Michael Penix goes at the top of the second. Just keep that in mind as we progress through this mock. But I do think here at the we'll just work our way this way. It doesn't matter. We'll go 6-1. How do you want to do? You want to go 6-1 or one? Which way do you want to
go? This will make it more fun. Let's just say you can make a pick, but you can also announce a favorable landing spot if you would like as well with the pick. It'll just kind of keep the analysis going, because if you're going to say that, you know I'm going to invoke the fact there's going to be some running backs in spots where that 0.25 per carry also comes up. So we can just give a little narrative to maybe why we would include the player here. Obviously, the players are going to be different if the landing spots and opportunity is different. But let's go back. Let's go back the other way. That doesn't matter how you do it. Yeah, I'd go backwards just so people can visualize it, but it's fine.
All right, so let's go Malik Neighbors. Fuck, I'll remove it. I'll go backwards. Here we go. We'll go Malik Neighbors right here. Malik Neighbors for me, he's going to be a top 10 pick, Giants, whatever. He'll carry the ball a few times out of the backfield, but I think it's Malik Neighbors off the board at the 107.
Oh, man. I would not take a quarterback here.
Okay.
Except for the fact that you said they were a first-round pick. That changes the math a little bit.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean Bo Nix is any better than he was yesterday before you told me he was a first-round pick.
You're taking Bo Nix? You would take Bo Nix at the 107 over Odunze.
Well, the 108 because you took Neighbors.
I wouldn't take him over
Neighbors. I wouldn't take him over Neighbors, but it's essentially Odunze, or the next best pick probably would be Bo Nix, unless I start saying I'm taking a running back because I say they're landing in Dallas in the second round and they haven't signed another running back. So I can either invoke one of those two. You already put Nix in Denver.
Yep.
I'm going to take Bo Nix in Denver. I'm going to make you pick between a running back of your choice in Dallas and Rome Odunze. And I say this on Nix. If it was another position, if there was a clear-cut RB1 in this class, If there was even like a Javonte Williams or a Najee Harris or somebody like that I know is getting capital and immediately going to get a massive opportunity workload, 0.25 point per carry, you're taking that player. But here, if I'm taking a receiver, Ray, what is the easiest thing to find in these leagues when all these other premiums are firing?
I get it. It's
receivers.
It's receivers, but that may be true. But the name Rome Odunze, regardless of what you can find, that name holds power. That name Rome Odunze has built extra shit, even though it may not be right. He's got extra cachet behind that name.
You know what? This is probably a pick in this format. I will just say this, and I won't say it again tonight. If before you click draft on a receiver in a best ball with all these premiums at the other positions, you should probably be thinking about what can I get for that pick. There's a shit ton of receivers in this draft that we are going to pick, but I guarantee you most people in these leagues do not value them appropriately or devalue them appropriately based on the name versus what the position is actually worth. So we'll continue on. But I think that's going to be true for every time we pick a receiver. We're going to go, man, it doesn't really lean to the format.
Yeah, and right here at this spot, I am going to take Odunze, and it's for some of the aforementioned things, the ADV. I think there's one spot that could really, really get the juices, the fantasy community going. And I don't know, Scott, have you seen any of the little fear-mongering about Jonathan Brooks and some people's concerns about his speed? There's these clips going around with him getting run down in the open field. I don't know if there's really a back that lands in Dallas that I believe will have more value, even despite the format, than Odunze. So I'm taking Odunze here. I think he's the last of the big name. And regardless of the game, like, I know I can move that asset. I know people will like Rome Odunze. He's as safe as they come, and he's probably a good receiver. So despite the scoring, despite what the war may tell you, people like him. People want Rome Odunze. So I'm taking him for that simple fact right here. I'm not taking no damn running back. I'm not taking no damn running back over Odunze. I'm just not doing that.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm going to invoke the first running back on the board. I am going to give the Dallas landing spot to Trey Benson. I think he's probably the favorite of the community to be the RB1, just based on his profile. He doesn't have the injury concerns of Jonathan Brooks. So if I get to pick the landing spot, this is where the RB1 will go, whoever it is in whatever landing spot people like. 0.25 point per carry, the end of this first round. It's going to be the opposite of what you would see in a lot of PPR leagues where the running back premium is too high. Anybody that's going to have an immediate role is going to go off higher in this draft. So he's an easy pick for me.
All right, well, here it is right here, and I'm trying to be realistic with these landing spots, and I still believe as a third-round pick, if this running back gets drafted by this team, he might challenge for the RB1, and I'm going to University of Michigan. Blake Corum gets drafted by the LA Chargers in the third round in a 0.25 per carry league. Looking at that backfield, looking at the lack of weapons around Justin Herbert and all the moves that they made this offseason, I think you can make the same case for Blake Corum coming off the board right after Trey Benson. If you're putting Benson in Dallas, which means Jonathan Brooks is not at the spot that every NFL analyst is mocking him at. But Blake Corum, Chargers in the 30s, coming off at 111.
Oh, man.
What do you think about that? What do you think about that?
I was hoping you would take Brooks because now I think this is actually a tough pick because I could go Brooks, who I've said it before. I think that the injury concern with him may actually help his value, meaning whoever gets him at the 112 in a point per carry league may be able to kind of have that asset as almost a delayed first round pick that they can use at another point later on in the year because he's kind of expected not to do much as a rookie. Oh, man. All right, I'm going to take him for that reason. But that's just because I just can't take Michael Penix.
Why can't you take? He's drafted by the Raiders, top of the second round, Michael Penix.
All right, screw it. I'm going Michael Penix because I'm thinking back to the leagues I'm in like this, getting 1 year of quarterback starts, which I think if he's drafted there in the second, there's a very good chance you get almost a year out of starts. And how many times have we said that, Ray? If Penix, Nix, Rattler go in the second round or higher, they are not being drafted to sit a year behind a career backup, right? The intent was to put them out there See if you struck gold on a guy on a cheaper contract, and if you didn't, they're on the chopping block next year. So I think they start, if they're drafted here, you've already given me the scenario where I'm comfortable with him going to the Raiders. He's going to play the majority of the year. I'll just take him because a year worth of quarterback starts in a league like this is worth this pick versus what else is on the board, even if he ends up not being anything other than a career backup.
Can we just talk about the difference between the board in this format and what does this say? This just captures the 2024 class beautifully here in a snapshot, because this is a start two. It's not super flex. You have to start 2 quarterbacks. You've got 3 receivers, Scott. There are 3 receivers that were selected in the first round of this format, and it's the big 3. And those big 3 universally, from pillar to post, are the top 3 receivers in this class. You've got 2 running backs. It could have been 1, but it's Benson and Corum. And if you really start to, you could hype Marshawn Lloyd, and yes, we like some of these others, but it feels like those are probably going to be one of the first 2 running backs off of the board. You've got Brock Bowers, the one elite tight end in this class, and then you got 6 quarterbacks, 6 of them. And let me just ask you this question. Does this speak to the depth of the wide receiver class, that people just should feel like you don't have to reach outside of the big 3? Everybody's going to have their particular flavor and the guy that they like. They're higher on than most on Leggett or Pearsall or Roman Wilson. But does this just sort of speak to the fact that the stone cold truth about this, Scott, is not all of Keon Coleman, Adonai Mitchell, Troy Franklin, Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, Xavier Leggett, Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, Bryant. No way all those guys are top 12 wide receivers for fantasy. No way they're top 20 receivers. This just speaks to, like, I just want one of them 3. Before anybody else, I want one of those 3 that are on the board. If those are the 3 premium ones, right?
Yeah, and I think that the bigger picture is there's so many receivers, and I'm just finishing up my section in our draft guide that'll be coming out very shortly, but I had to go through and basically put where these guys fit in on roster construction. That was what I contributed to it, and it'll be interesting to see other people's thoughts on that. But one of the things, when you get into a best ball league like this with all the other premiums, it just devalues the non-elite receivers, right? You need enough of them to get by, but it really just makes me not want to draft into the non-premium spots with these high-value picks. Also knowing, dude, there's 25 receivers I'm interested in best ball, legitimately. So why would I use a 111 on a pick where I have to pick the wide receiver 4? There's literally going to be guys in the 3rd that I'm going, they kind of accomplish the same thing for my roster. So yeah, it's just, this format is highlighting it to like the nth degree of what it really is.
So just overarching strategy, as we round out, the first round, all the damn quarterbacks are off of the board. I mean, there are some others that we will talk about, but just what's your philosophy in this type of league? Start 2 quarterbacks, 2.0 tight end premium, 0.25 per carry, best ball. After round 1, it is nothing but receivers. You got a couple of dart throw running backs. What's the plan here? What is the game plan at this point? Are you just drafting the players that have the highest ADV? Are you trying to hit on some running backs? Are you taking some swings on QBs? There's not a lot of tight ends that people are excited about. Like, what is the play at this point, second round and beyond?
There's probably 4 other players right now that I absolutely am prioritizing to get.
Well, let's call those 4 out. Let's screw the mock at this point. Talk to who are the 4 that you would prioritize in the order in which we put them. Who are the 4 that you would prioritize?
Well, my next pick, because I get to create ending spots, I would take Spencer Rattler. I like Rattler over Bo Nix and Michael Penix. But again, if I'm saying he gets drafted in the 2nd round, I like him just as much as those guys. I would continue with making sure he goes off the board somewhere around where those guys do. Then we're probably looking at we're done at QB, Ray, until, because again, it's best ball. So the real tricky part about this is there's probably 1 or 2 other rookie QBs in this class. Michael Pratt, Jordan Travis, Joe Milton, name them. Austin Reed. They're going to start a game or 2 or 3 or 4 this year, possibly. I have no clue who, though. And do I really want to draft a 5th-round Jordan Travis and sit him on my bench and use up a 0 and wait for that to happen? No.
All right.
Almost done.
So,
Would you agree? We're probably, even though it's 2 QB, we're probably done with QB. Are you done with QB?
Yeah, there's nobody else that I really want. Spencer Rattler was next up. For me, no doubt. I would say Jonathan Brooks has to come off the board as one of your 4, right?
Yep. I was going to add Marshawn Lloyd, Braylon Allen, Jalen Wright. Those would be the other 3 at running back. And then the only other receiver that I would probably consider would be BTJ, just for the fact that most people have him at wide receiver 4. But even here, I don't value him almost above the running backs. If you tell me all of those guys go on day 2 or higher, Brooks, Allen, and Jalen Wright.
Let's say Brooks goes on day 2, but Allen, Jalen Wright, and Marshawn Lloyd are 4th-round picks. They're 4th-round picks versus the 1st-round pick capital that we suspect and anticipate Brian Thomas receiving. Would you take any of those 4th-round running backs over a 1st-round Brian Thomas, a high 2nd-round Worthy, a 2nd-round Franklin, a 2nd-round Coleman, a 2nd-round Mitchell?
In my league, if I can immediately say I have a 1st-round receiver here named Brian Thomas Jr. or Xavier Worthy or A.D. Mitchell or Troy Franklin or Ladd McConkey or whoever it is, and I can then trade that for, I don't know, insert whatever running back you're pretty sure is going to score a lot of points, a Najee Harris, James Conner, Joe Mixon, that type. Sure, I'd rather have those guys over, the 6th rookie running back in this class. But to your point, can I do that? If you can, and teams are going to go, I don't understand the scoring, I don't care. Sure, give me Brian Thomas, I'll give you a running back, then yeah. But otherwise, lean into the format. I think the running backs are going to go off the board in the next 5-6 picks, ahead of some of the receivers that we typically see.
All right, so I went BTJ here at the top of the 2nd. I think at the 203 spot, 1st-round capital, it's probably going to be in a decent spot as well. We're talking Dallas, Buffalo, Cincinnati are some of the most frequented names paired with Thomas. I think he's appropriately slotted here. But let's talk through Ladd McConkey, Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell over whatever running back you want to pencil in here. Braylon Allen, Marshawn Lloyd, Jalen Wright. Where are you at with those picks and players?
I think it's fair to take whatever receivers you think have a real legit shot of going in the 1st round. And you would probably say it's what, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, maybe Ladd McConkey?
Yep. I think that's it. Ladd McConkey at the 2-6. All right.
I mean, is this where you would start hitting the running backs? Is this where you just basically go down the line to the guys you think are going to be in? And here's the thing. I don't want to conflate this idea with these guys are going to be immediate starters that are getting a ton of opportunity.
Correct.
But if you're Braylon Allen and you're drafted in the early 4th round, you're drafted for the reason exactly why you would want a player in this format, to carry the ball. So, I mean, you have to respect the fact that he almost fits in better than somebody like Jalen Wright. But I think Jalen Wright and Marshawn Lloyd, all 3 of them, bring something to the table that's going to be different than likely the other player in the backfield that they have. And if they have an immediate role in best ball with this scoring, like, you want to have these guys rather than just a receiver. I can find receivers later. Hell, Ray, at the pace we're on now, there's going to be receivers on waivers that I'm going to want here.
Yes.
So you keep eating up the running backs, because here's the thing. I don't want to draft the running backs despite the point per carry. I don't want to draft running backs I can't guarantee you're going to have a role. Like, let me ask you this. How far down in a best ball right now are you really wanting to go in this draft at running back? Like, how many more on your board are you going, I know this guy's getting the capital that says he has a day 1 role?
Man.
If not, you really don't want to draft them. They're roster cloggers in best ball.
Maybe legitimately, Scott, maybe 2 more. And they're a little further down the board. Maybe 2 or 3 more running backs. Right here at the 210 spot, Ja'Tavion Sanders? JT Sanders, 210. That's what I was thinking. JT Sanders at the 210 spot. All right, now we're at 211. We still have Troy Franklin, Keon Coleman. Think about that. Xavier Legette, 211 in a start to 2.0, 0.25 per carry best ball league. we still have Troy Franklin and Keon Coleman on the board at 211 and 212.
I mean, you mentioned those two, but I think you can throw in Franklin. You can throw in Roman Wilson. You can throw in Ricky Pearsall. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of receivers that, and here's the thing, I'm going to need receivers in this kind of format. I know I need them. I probably want to carry 12 receivers, maybe more. So my team probably needs a couple refreshing pieces on my roster. Because you go to how many of your best ball rosters look like something? You got a Cedric Wilson, you maybe got a Noah Brown, you got a bunch of these guys where you're going, all right, hopefully they can survive for another year. But being able to get some of these contributors that the NFL values and the NFL is going to probably give a shot for a role right away, these are just kind of the placeholders. But I think we rip off like 6 receivers right here. I think you go Coleman.
Voice of Reason says Braylon Allen and Corum's lack of receiving upside drops them for me. It's 0.25 per carry. Here's the thing. If I can get 12 carries a game, I don't care about receiving. Yeah.
I care about just overall opportunities. So,
absolutely.
I mean,
yep.
And here's the thing. In a league like this, if Braylon Allen goes to a good spot, that's not a dude that's going at 207. Somebody will take him as the RB1 or RB2 because they see that's the Derrick Henry. You know what I mean? Even if Braylon Allen had A.J. Dillon's career, go look at A.J. Dillon in a point per carry. The dude got a lot of carries. They didn't do much with him, but the point is, even if you get a Brian Robinson with Braylon Allen, the point per carry, that blows almost anything out of the water that a receiver is going to do.
All right, so after J.T. Sanders, you said you wanted to rip off a few receivers. There's a running back that I do want to talk about here in a second. So can I just make the case for a late day 2, early day 3 Will Shipley?
Sure.
This is a player that I've been pounding the table for. I think he's a little bit suffers from the Devy fatigue. Somebody that had an incredible sophomore season production, starter all 3 years, early declare, young, checked all the analytical boxes, checked all the size, weight, speed stuff. He's going to be deployed as a pass-catching weapon. So for all the reasons you're concerned about Allen, Audric Estime, Braylon Allen, Blake Corum, you should not have those same concerns and fears about Will Shipley. So this is one of the few running backs in this class, Scott, one of the few, and probably does it at the most proficient level, maybe he and Bucky Irving, at being deployed as a pass-catching weapon. All it takes is one team to be like, that's the type of guy that we can deploy in that role. So I'm listening. I'm paying. I think Shipley's going to get drafted a little higher than people think. But for this exercise, we'll put him in the 5th round. So we probably won't take him here. But for the sake of this exercise, 5th round pick Will Shipley. I just want to put that out there. So what do you want to do? Troy Franklin here?
Yeah, I think you can probably rip off a couple of the receivers we're going to get capital. Franklin, Keon Coleman, probably Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Legette. I think all 3 of those would probably be on the list of the next up. I am curious your thoughts on Estime, because I still see him going in like round 4, round 5, and he does fit the format, doesn't he? I think he does fit the format if you're looking for a guy that's potentially able to come in and get carries. So well, I think it's
running back time now. Personally, I think you can go Shipley, you can go Estime, you can go Bucky Irving. I mean, I think if I were in this cluster, I would forego some of these Corleys, Devontae Walkers, Jalen Polks, Jacob Cowings. Like at this point, you're just picking a name that you like, and you're not really catering to the format. So if it were me, I would rip off some running backs. I would go Audric Estime. I would take a Will Shipley, and we'll go Bucky Irving as well off of the board. I'd rip off some RBs to start the 3rd.
So then would you agree that we might be done right now with running backs that we are expecting to have?
Yes. And that's why I picked
near
those
day
names.
1 roles.
And that's why I picked those names in particular. I didn't start going Dylan Lobb. And here's the thing. You'll know sooner rather than later with these 3. And if they don't look to have an immediate role and there's somebody willing to wait on that Bucky Irving, just package them up and move them. Landmine them. Trojan horse, you know?
And that's advice for everybody listening that plays in best ball. You have to really do an analysis on the situation for these guys. You may love Will Shipley. But if he lands in a backfield with 2 other good running backs, probably not where you don't want your exposure, probably in best ball. You're probably better off taking him in a lineup league where you can just sit him on the bench and eat the 0 until he gets a roll. I mean, how are those Eric Gray, Tank Bigsby, Evan Hall shares working out in best ball? I mean, I know Evan Hall got hurt, but those types of running backs that they got, 5th or 6th round capital or beyond, where you're going, man, I like that profile, but they fell in the draft. They killed you. And then a guy like Bigsby, who was a 3rd round pick, you thought he would have a role. I thought he would have a role. He doesn't have a role. And what did you do? You ate the 0 all year.
Yeah.
And now you're hoping this year he just has a role. But he's been stuck on your team the entire time. So I think, we're done at running back. Would you go next to your receivers? Or can I interest you at all, Ray, in taking any of the tight ends?
Yeah, I think you can go Jaheim Bell, Theo Johnson, Cade Stover, Dallin Holker. I mean, at this point, you're at the 307 spot. What do you want to go?
So here's the thing about tight ends in best ball as well.
Yes.
I need to know they have a chance to get on the field, because do I really want to draft guys like Tez Walker?
Here's the thing. Hold on, real quick. It's a rookie draft, Scott. Just keep that in mind, right? Keep that in, because what you're talking about is scoring points on your roster. That's not going to happen until September. Right now, holding the player and drafting the player and having the tight end isn't hurting you right now. So getting one of these hopium tight ends that can do anything throughout training camp to get some buzz, to increase some value, and then you ship them off knowing that they're not going to play over Trey McBride, no matter how good Jaheim Bell looks in training camp. I think we have to keep that in mind, that it's okay right now. They're not scoring us the points until September.
I mean, Brenton Strange was looking good in OTAs last year as well.
Exactly.
You would have gone, what a steal I got out in Brenton Strange in the 3rd of this format last year. And you ate that 0 alongside Tank Bigsby. So thank you, Jacksonville. They victimized us twice with their 2nd and 3rd round picks.
And people like these guys. And look at the chat. Benson not buzzing. Really like Jaheim. This is why in this type of format, you take them. You absolutely take them.
All right. Well, then I'm going to start making up landing spots. I'm going to say, where can we put one of these tight ends that makes me say I got to have them? Can I interest you in
Theo Johnson to we can't even do that because he would have gone higher. Theo Johnson to Kansas City on day 2. He's a 2nd round pick. In this type of format, Theo Johnson to Kansas City.
You're really going Kansas City.
I just said he would be there. I just said if that were to happen, but then I retracted it. I pulled it back. I didn't even finish. I pulled out. I didn't finish. Go ahead. Give us some landing spots.
I'm looking at the teams right now, and I'm trying to figure out the ones where maybe if they go in the 3rd, I could get excited for a tight end. Could I get excited for
Benson
a tight end
to the
that
Bengals.
goes to the Jets at 72?
Here's
the thing. I'm a Bengals fan. Their tight ends aren't great. Okay, a Jets tight end in the 3rd or the 4th, I'm interested.
Theo Johnson.
I'm interested in the Jets tight end.
Theo Johnson to the Jets in the 3rd.
Sure. He can join his buddy Zach Kuntz. They can both go to the Jets. Sure. Maybe they'll trade for Brenton Strange and we can have the trio.
Jaheim Bell to Miami. He feels like a Miami pick. Doesn't Jaheim Bell feel like? The point is, in this type of format, at this point, best ball, I would take the shot on some of the hopium tight ends. I would. If they had some good landing spots, Jaheim Bell with the Miami Dolphins, Ben Sinnott goes to Kansas City in the 4th round. And I'm not making this bet because I believe that they're going to score me these points. I'm making the bet because I know that the psychology of the Dynasty, everybody's chasing the next thing. Everybody wants the next damn Travis Kelce, the next Trey McBride, Sam Laporta. And you know it. You can shake your head no all you want. Everybody's trying to find and chase that tight end. They do it every year. Every single year we do this in rookie draft. Every year in rookie drafts we're doing it. Every year.
Rip them off then. Go Theo Johnson, go Cade Stover, go Jaheim Bell, go Ben Sinnott. We're just taking all the ones that I think I would even be considering drafting. Just get rid of all of them and we'll move on. We won't talk about tight ends anymore. But just be careful. I've been burned by so many of these types of tight ends in best ball.
But don't Scott, again,
Yes,
you
yes,
already
I
say
know,
that these picks don't even matter in the long run. We're drafting
True.
in May.
True.
If you get to the season and you're rostering them, it ain't the tight end's fault. It's your fault. If you're rostering Dallin Hooker in September, don't fucking blame Dallin Hooker. Blame yourself for not cutting him. It ain't his fault that he's still on your roster.
Oh, man. How deep are we going to go at tight end here? You already mentioned Dallin Hooker.
Good.
You going Jared Wiley?
I'm not going Jared Wiley. I think these are the common names. This is how poor the class is. These are the four names after Sanders and Bowers. This is how poor the tight end class is.
All right, fair. All right, how many picks do we got left? We got 14 picks.
Well, we got two picks left in the third
1
round.
minute.
Yeah, we got 2 picks left in the third. We're finishing out the third.
All right, I'm taking Jermaine Burton. Got to take Jermaine Burton. Everything I've read this week, he moves up another 4 slots at receiver from everything I've listened to and read this week. So he's got to go. You pick one. You want to go Brendan Rice, Javon Baker? Okay.
Javon Baker, the touchdown maker. That is
the receivers that are going to get capital. Corley, Rice, Tez Walker, probably Jalen Polk, Malik Washington, Johnny Wilson.
Yep.
And
Jalen Polk.
Are there any more running backs? Would you think a guy like Ray Davis would get drafted here, even if he goes to a kind of a crummy landing spot just because of the SEC pedigree and its point per carry? I don't think he would hit waivers.
No, he's not hitting. No. Ray Davis isn't hitting waivers. I don't believe Ray Davis is hitting waivers. No, he would get selected.
Ray's just taking all the picks. He's just ripping through them.
Oh, well, you just said, I'm just trying to fill the board out, legitimately looking through this.
Luke McCaffrey. He may move to running back and be like his brother.
Oh yeah, that hopium. Luke McCaffrey. God, I mean, at this
Jalen
point,
McMillan. I think McMillan will get decent capital.
Okay,
that's
all right.
I would draft.
Decent capital, round 6. Okay.
Where else? Take? I'm trying to think what running backs we haven't taken. Are there any where you could? Here's the thing with running backs and point per carry. People will gravitate towards a guy that lands in a spot, even if they are not getting good capital. If it is like a 6th round Jace McClellan or a Kendall Milton or someone like that on a shitty team, that guy will go in point per carry just because of the format.
Yeah.
If Kendall Milton goes to the Giants in the 6th, he's probably no better than the 3 other scrubs they have, but someone will take him here just because it's point per carry. So you get to make the mystery irrelevant. Who's it going to be?
Mr. Irrelevant, point per carry. Oh, man.
Jordan Travis?
I would take the guy that's got a leg before I would take Jordan Travis. So I would probably...
Forget QB. No QBs. Unless you really want. Unless you're going Joe Milton.
It's best ball. Wiley, who's got the best hopium left? Debro was pumping up old Eric All this week, and it's tight end premium. So we'll take Eric All right here for old Debro. There we go. We'll run
Iowa. That means he's good, right?
Well, he's fast. Again, I don't give a shit about the 412 spot right here. You know Who's the flavor of the week this week that I could try to throw in a deal and get a third out of? Eric All to get it done for me. So just look at the receivers in a format in which that prioritizes the quarterback and the tight end before anything else, and then your running back prioritized even more. Look at how a bad running back class still shakes out when the scoring dictates that's the dominant position. The quarterback that can run the ball. And look at how many, just the sheer number of receivers selected after round 2. Roman Wilson, Pearsall, Leggett, Burton, Coker, Corley, Baker, Rice, Polk, Walker, Wilson. I mean, it's just, when you see it in practice, it's like, shit, after the 107, get me out of this draft, Scott. After the 107, 108, how can I get out of this thing? How can I get out of pick 109 through 212? I don't even want to make them. Just get me out, give me capital in 2025. I'll take a dart throw. Give me one shot at Javon Baker in the third round. Give me my Malik Washington in the fourth if I have to take a dart. Get me the hell out of 109, 110, 111, 112. What are your takeaways, man? Something like this that is more sort of representative of the leagues that we play in.
Yeah, the league I'm thinking about that's very. I think you can look at this board, and I mean, we kind of goofed around in the second part just because we were up against time, but.
Yes.
It kind of reminds you of a little bit of Royal Rumble, doesn't it, Ray? Where quarterbacks are going to go at a premium. Running back premium scoring pushes them up. And someone said in the chat, it's ridiculous. If you're just looking for contributors and you're in a league like this, you're sitting there at the 220, and Royal Rumble's 2 copies, so I'm in the 2 copy mode. But you're sitting there at the 209, 301, 303, 306. You're going, dude, I'm going to get a lot of receivers that are going to have roles. There's plenty of them. There's going to be 10 of them for me to choose from. It may not be the guys I want, but if I'm just seeking this year's Pop Douglas and Dontavian Wicks and A.T. Perry, like this class is full of guys like that or better. And because of this format, they're getting pushed down to a range where you may look back and you go, you know what? I whiffed on some of those running back picks because they ended up not having roles, and I ended up with a nice innings eater receiver at the 306. And it's just the format. So I think this type of league, if anyone's not playing in a league like this, makes it a real challenge because you want to lean into the format. Hell, a couple of our teams I drafted on there, I went like all quarterbacks and all running backs. And if I whiffed, I'm going, man, I should have just taken the easy points, honestly.
Yeah, it just highlights and illustrates, and it's not a bad thing for the 24 class of receivers. It's that deep that there are going to be receivers that land in situations that may not have the type of role that Marv or Malik or Odunze are going to have, but it can be 80% of what Ladd McConkey could get. It could be 75, 90% of A.D. Mitchell at a significantly less cost. You could look up now, would it absolutely shock you, Scott, in 3 years you look up and third round Brendan Rice is produced at an equivalent level as the back end first round A.D. Mitchell? Would that shock you at all? If you look up in 3 years and it's like Brendan Rice is produced as close to A.D. Mitchell and he went, 2.5 rounds later. So I think it just speaks to the depth of this class. So this was an interesting one. Best ball does change the math a little bit because you want to avoid zeros, but ultimately these type of formats just make the rookie drafts that much funner. And again, if I can move out of some of those back end first, I'm 100% going to take that out if I can get it. We appreciate everybody being in this evening. We will be having the dopest, the biggest, the best draft stream in the fantasy football space. I promise you that the DD draft stream, myself, Dynasty Trades in 5, Scott Connor, we are getting it popping this year, giving away this Trey McBride jersey. If you are new to Underdog, all you got to do is sign up using promo code DDD. You get entry not once, not twice for this week and this week only. After this week, all entries will be single entry only. All you got to do is sign up, deposit $10, and you're automatically entered to win all the dope stuff that we are giving away. Roster reviews, year-long memberships to our Heisman Discord over at Destination Devi, keys to the tools, access to Scott Connor, all types of dope stuff. Scott, we got one super chat before we get out of the building. Joshua Rosen sent us one in. Appreciate it, Josh. Just jumping in now. Love what you guys do. My favorite league is 1 QB, 1 point PPR Dynasty. I appreciate you working that format in. So just saying thank you. And another person that appreciates us diving into the one quarterback content. Scott, you talked about at the top of the show, our war, not games, but wins above replacement tutorial guide will be starting out this week, and it will be one quarterback. We use Underdog's big board format to talk through how to use and how to interpret and how to incorporate wins above replacement data into your fantasy football strategy and process. About 3.5 hour episode that we did? Scott's about 3.5 hours, damn near 4 hours long. We will split it up into 2 parts, but that will be dropping this week. Scott, anything you want to say to people before we get out of here this evening?
No, we are 4 weekends from now. We will be doing a destination chill, and we will have the draft behind us. And maybe I shouldn't speak because that's going to be a long weekend. I don't know if we'll fire off a destination chill on Sunday night. But yeah, it'll be here before you know it. I would just encourage everybody. We get the next 3 weeks. There's going to be a lot of just recycled takes. There's going to be very little new information other than workouts. There's a couple pro days and whatnot, but do your own research. I encourage everybody, if you want to be a better dynasty player, I'm not saying don't listen to Ray, don't listen to me, don't listen to these fun mock drafts, but a lot of what we said tonight is we're just having fun. We're guessing. We're hypothetically picking landing spots. But I would encourage everybody to go out there and really dive into what it means for some of these teams if they do X in the draft. Like, consume some NFL stuff. Kind of pivot away from the dynasty only stuff and really dive into like what you think is going to happen in the draft. Because right when you're done, there's going to be a lot of takes that are going to be completely different from what was said before the draft, because everyone's going to overreact to the spots and the situations. So I would just encourage everybody to go out there. If you want to be a better dynasty player, tap into what the NFL is saying and what you think could happen and start making some bets then instead of waiting until after the NFL draft where everything is going to be starting to be a new consensus. You're muted.
I'm on mute. All right. Thought you were going to wrap us up. Good outro, Scott. Yes. Go listen to some NFL content. Hey, what are you talking about on Destination Dynasty in the morning? Give the people a preview. What are you talking about?
Well, the thing is, I haven't actually recorded it yet, so it's about to get recorded here in the next hour.
All right.
And we will see. It's going to be a hodgepodge of stuff. So, yes, be surprised tomorrow morning.
Make sure y'all tap into Scott's Destination Dynasty in the morning. Make sure y'all wake up with me and Jay Rich at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all have a good evening. Wake y'all last up tomorrow. We out of this thing. See y'all next Sunday. Peace.